Kansas City Chiefs are champions of Super Bowl 54.
These guys are hungry for more. They are eager to win another one. They're not satisfied with that one title. They want more. They want to build a dynasty here.
Throws it late for the end zone. Kelce wide open. Touchdown! Now being hit and sacked. Frank Clark got it.
Every conversation since the parade has been run it back and do it again.
The Chiefs held on to win their 8th consecutive game last week, and now with another AFC West title in the books, they'll take on the Saints in a matchup between two of the top teams in football. We are 1 hour from kickoff. You've waited all week for this very moment. It's finally here. It is time for football in Chiefs Kingdom. Let's do this. My name is Matt McMullen, joined as always by Shawn Barber. And Shawn, we knew how good this team is. We see it every single week. But what impressed me about last week's victory over Miami is that in that first quarter, not everything went perfectly. As a matter of fact, pretty much everything went wrong in that first quarter. But they found a way to overcome and beat a pretty good team in the Miami Dolphins.
Man, and good teams do that. You know there's going to be some ebb and flows to the season, and there was some ebb and flows to that game, starting out with tip balls, interceptions, big sacks for big loss, put us behind the chains, had the offense kind of sputtering. But what we found out is when our offense gets going, they get going really fast with a lot of explosive plays.
Yeah, love seeing that. We also saw different phases of this team pick each other up when they needed to. So in that first quarter, the offense wasn't playing very well, turning the ball over, but the defense picked them up. On those turnovers that happened in that first quarter, only 3 points for Miami off of those turnovers. The defense picked up the offense there. Then late in the game, when the defense was struggling a bit, letting Miami back into it, the offense picks up a big fourth down, kicks a field goal, makes it a 2-score game. So when you have different phases picking each other up like that, it really is the mark of a special team.
It is, and let's not forget special teams. The big punt return for a touchdown definitely let that momentum swing all the way to the Chiefs' side, and I think that's when everyone knew that game was over. We didn't know how it was going to end, when it was going to end, but that big return touchdown by McCole Hardman was definitely a nail in the coffin.
A safety on defense, too. You probably like that, right?
Always, always.
So it all helped the Chiefs win an 8th straight game, as I mentioned, and lock up a 5th straight AFC West title. Before Coach Reed got here, the Chiefs had never won consecutive AFC West titles. Now they have won 5 in a row. Really remarkable stuff. That matches an AFC West record for consecutive division titles for any team in this division. And Shawn, you know, people always talk about the good old days. We're in the good old days right now. This is the golden age of Chiefs football. We're living it. So, you know, you can't take this this stretch of AFC West titles for granted.
Man, we're making the memories each and every week, setting different NFL records, setting different franchise records. A 10 straight road victory for the Kansas City Chiefs. That's a franchise record and the longest in the current NFL right now.
Trying to be perfect on the road this season for the first time since 1966 would be a very big deal. We'll talk about the game here shortly. Also talk about some playoff scenarios here very soon. But first, Shawn, let's go over the inactives for today's game. 2 guys that will not play here today are linebacker Damian Wilson. He has that knee injury, missed last week. He will not play again today. Then also Mike Remmers with kind of a neck back injury, combine the two there. He won't play here today either. That's significant. He's been playing right tackle for this team with Mitchell Schwartz out. But one guy who will be back, some good news, is Eric Fisher. He will be out here today. He had that back injury that kept him out of practice earlier this week, but practiced on Friday. That's a big boost for this offensive line because this New Orleans pass rush is pretty good.
Man, they are, and they've been getting after the quarterback at a high rate. But what we would like to see is, you know, Fisher to get back in there and get to the flow of things, get back to communicating, have our 1A offensive line back in the trenches, especially against a pass front and a rush front like the Saints can put out there. They have a number of guys get out the passer. That's what they've been doing all season is getting after the passer and stopping the run.
Yeah, big news there. Also, DeAndre Baker at cornerback, a former first-round pick of the Giants. The Chiefs picked him up, put him on the practice squad earlier this year. He is active today for the first time as a Chief, so looking forward to seeing what DeAndre Baker can do today. Now, looking at the Saints, really interesting saga following all their injury news this week, but the biggest news, of course, is Drew Brees. He's active here today. We knew that on Friday, but he will be their starting quarterback. He suffered a punctured lung and 11 fractured ribs just about a month ago, but what a gamer. He'll be in there today starting at quarterback for the Saints. Then also, one guy who will not be out there for him is Michael Thomas. This is big news. Michael Thomas, perhaps the best wide receiver in all of football. He awesome player, led the NFL in receptions and receiving yards last season. He will not play in this one with an ankle injury, and he'll miss the rest of the regular season. They think they'll have him back for the playoffs, but that's big news not having Michael Thomas out there.
Man, big news. We talk about that quarterback comparison with Hill being out there and Breeze. I got my own thoughts about what the Saints are really doing with this, announcing Breeze as the starting quarterback, because to be the starting quarterback, that means the first play. So you might see him out there the first series, a couple of 3 steps trying to get the ball away, but I think that the majority of the snaps today might be Taysom Hill.
All right, we'll see how that plays out. We'll talk all about this matchup here shortly, but first, Shawn, let's go over some postseason scenarios because it's that time of year, 3 games left. This team obviously vying for that top seed in the playoffs, and let's start with that. So the Chiefs trying to get that top seed, which is so important this year because there's no bye for the second seed.
Yes.
This is the first time that we only have one first-round bye in each conference. Very big there, getting that first overall seed. The Chiefs are in position to get that seed as of right now, and here is the path for them to get it. It's very simple. All they need to do is split these 2 games against the NFC opponents coming up. So win either today against New Orleans or Atlanta, either one of those 2 games, and then beat the LA Chargers at home in Week 17. And no matter what else happens in the NFL, they will have that top overall seed. And Shawn, what's beautiful about that is we don't have to worry about what everyone else is doing. We're not counting on Pittsburgh losing or the Bills losing or whatever. The Chiefs control their own destiny for that top seed. That's a beautiful thing.
Man, you use those words, control your own destiny. That's what every football player dreams about in week 1. How do you create enough wins? How do you play football great enough, good enough at a top level throughout the season to get to a point where you can control your own destiny and gain that bye week? Like you said, with only one bye week, the number 1 seed is the only one with the week off. You have to put your position to shorten the postseason to give yourself the greatest chance of going not only to the Super Bowl, but also to win a Super Bowl.
That bye week is so huge. We know how that helped the Chiefs last year.
Yes.
Just not playing in that first round. I mean, even if it's a home game, you're playing a pretty good football team. You want that bye both to get rested and also just to not have to worry about a pretty good team coming in here. So that's really big if the Chiefs can hold on to this top seed. You certainly want that. Secures home field advantage throughout the postseason and also gets you that bye, which is so critical. So that's the scenario. Once again, splitting these 2 games against the NFC opponents, so beating either the Saints today or the Falcons, and then beating the LA Chargers at home, or win all 3. That works too. But there's some wiggle room there against these NFC opponents that helps the Chiefs out quite a bit. So that's good to know there. So now with that in mind, let's take a look at the current playoff picture coming into the AFC today. So I know games are going on right now, but coming into today, the way it worked out is you can see the graphic here. The Chiefs with the top overall seed, as we know. The Steelers with the number 2 seed. Bills at number 3. The Titans at number 4 to close out the division winners. Then the 3 wild cards goes Cleveland, Indianapolis, and Miami. And remember, this is the first year we have a 7th wild card team in each conference. So last year, the Dolphins would be on the outside looking in right now, but they are currently in the postseason picture. Now, if the season ended today, the Chiefs would play the lowest remaining seed between 4 and 7, just the way the math works out. So the Titans, Browns, Colts, or Dolphins would come into Arrowhead Stadium for a divisional round playoff game. So once again, a lot to be figured out here, but if the season ended today, this is how it would work out. So Shawn, with that all in mind, what are your thoughts on those 4 teams, and overall, how does this all shake out in your opinion?
Man, I think either four of those teams coming to Arrowhead is going to be a great matchup, but something the Chiefs look forward to coming. I think we are prime position. Our team is hitting on all cylinders on the offense. Our defense can definitely limit what they do on the offensive side of the ball and put us in position to win. But we talked about if the season ends today. Luckily, it doesn't end today. And I see of the playoff teams, possibly 3 or 4 teams winning out for the rest of this season. I see the Bills, the Browns, the Ravens, and of course our Chiefs being all in position to win out for weeks 15, 16, and 17. And then my standings as the playoffs ends up with Chiefs being 1, the Buffalo Bills at 2, the Pittsburgh Steelers at 3, Titans at 4, the Browns stay at 5, and then I got the Baltimore Ravens sneaking into the 6th seed, and then the Indianapolis Colts falling down to that 7th seed, and the Dolphins missing the playoffs altogether. So I got a little bit of a juggling act going on in the playoff seats, but that's the fun thing about the end of the season. We talk about starting fast, but you got to finish strong.
Lots can happen here in these final 3 weeks, so I'm glad you went over that. Now, the beauty of having a late game here is we can check in on some of these scores. So let's start with Titans and Colts, those 2 teams vying for that AFC South crown. So tracking this in live time here, the Colts just scored over Houston to go up 27-20 with 1 minute and 47 seconds left. Deshaun Watson and the Texans will have a chance there to go down and maybe win that game with a 2-point conversion. We'll see how that plays out. The Titans, meanwhile, up 39-18 over Detroit with 9 minutes left. So looking like the Titans will win that game. Kind of a must-win here for Indianapolis because they're trying to keep pace there with Tennessee. Those two teams coming into today are tied at 9-4, but Tennessee holds the tiebreaker there. So the Colts need to keep winning. They can't let Deshaun Watson go down there and score against them. They got to win this one.
Yeah, unfortunately, no matter how good the Colts do at the end of the season, I see the Titans winning 2 of the last 3 and still ending up closing out with that number 4 seed, winning the AFC South. The thing we know about the Tennessee Titans, they have King Henry. They got a great rushing game. But it's been Tannehill. It's been that passing game. It's been those big play opportunities that A.J. Brown and Davis has been making, and also Johannes Smith. They've shown to be a well-rounded team on the offense. And surprisingly, their defense is just not as good as they have been in the past. And we keep thinking about Vrabel being this defensive mind, doing this Patriot scheme. He doesn't look defensively like he's doing anything like he did when he played for the Patriots. He has his own niche, his own thing he's doing. And so the Tennessee Titans is a unique team, but I do think they lose one of the last 3 games.
Now, looking at a few other teams here, the Raiders lost a big game on Thursday night. They were on the outside looking in, kind of in that final group there, trying to sneak into the playoffs, but losing to the Chargers at home, that really makes it difficult for them to make it into the playoffs. We'll see if some things can happen for them, but also with Derek Carr hurt, I'm not sure about the Raiders. Ravens and Dolphins, so we mentioned these two teams. You think the Ravens will get in over Miami. So the Ravens are up big over Jacksonville right now. Miami, though, tight game over New England. They're currently winning 15-12. Kind of an interesting score there. 3 minutes and 38 seconds left in that game. Miami has the ball on the New England 1-yard line, it looks like. So Dolphins will probably win that game. Makes for kind of a fun finish here, though. The final 2 games of the year, the Ravens and Dolphins vying for that final spot.
Yeah, I got the Dolphins obviously facing New England today, then against the Raiders, and then against a feisty Bills team that's been playing really well. And I got the Ravens finishing off the year with the Jags, the Giants, and Cincinnati. So the Ravens are pretty much a lock to win out. It's the Dolphins team I think is going to let one or maybe 2 slide in this last 3 weeks, and that's going to allow the Ravens to leapfrog them into the playoff race.
See how it all plays out. Few important games coming up here. Browns at Giants is tonight. That's important because the Browns trying to keep pace there. Also in the NFC playoff picture, the Giants trying to win that division. They have a shot here with Washington. Probably going to lose today if they haven't already. Then also Steelers at Bengals tomorrow. Steelers trying to get back on track. They've dropped 2 straight games. Bengals have struggled this year and no Joe Burrow. So that's the Steelers. You'd think the Steelers probably have a good chance of winning that game, but you never know. Division rivalry. So we'll see what plays out in that one. But that's definitely a game to keep an eye on for this postseason picture. But still a lot to go to happen here, a lot to be figured out, but it's still fun talking about the postseason. Love this time of year and love the Chiefs being in this position where we can talk about this kind of thing. Chiefs being in a great shot to lock up that 1 seed. Once again, just to wrap up this segment, the Chiefs need to split these 2 NFC games, so beat either the Saints or Falcons and beat the LA Chargers at home. And of course, 2 of those games, the 2 last games of the season, Falcons and Chargers will be here at Arrowhead Stadium. You can see behind me the tarp. The field's getting ready. And there's actually tickets available for these 2 games. Go to Chiefs.com/tickets. And you can come help the Chiefs lock up the top overall seed in the AFC postseason picture. All right, so as you can see, warm-ups are underway out there in the Superdome, and our live looks are presented by Orworo. Orworo is our official heated apparel partner. Socks, vests, jackets, gloves, they have it all. Check them out at orworowear.com. That's O-R-O-R-O wear.com. All right, Shawn, so let's talk a bit about the matchup here today. Obviously, postseason coming up, but we still have a football game to be played here, and a good one, too, against the New Orleans Saints. And the first guy I want to ask you about is Drew Brees. Kind of touched on this earlier, the strategy you think Sean Payton will employ with Drew Brees, but fractured 11 ribs, punctured lung just about a month ago. The guy's 41 years old, but still among the all-time greats. First ballot Hall of Famer for sure. Playing solid football this season. 18 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. He's always been so accurate, and that's continuing this season, completing his passes at a 74% clip. You know, he really doesn't push the ball downfield much, but he's so efficient with the football, gets the ball in his playmakers' hands and lets them work.
Yeah, 110 quarterback rating, getting them 30 points a game. The difference between them, with the Saints with Drew Brees and at the quarterback position against Taysom Hill is only about a 6-point a game average, which it seems like it's not a lot, but in close games against a team like the Chiefs, every point's going to matter. And they got to find a way, if you're a Saints fan, every drive needs to try to end up with a field goal or a touchdown. They can't come up with no points on any drives, because the Chiefs, as you know, we've been living on these big plays, super explosive offense, and we're going to be lighting up that scoreboard. So Drew Brees, if you hope to try to stay with us, you better put the pedal to the metal, and you got to throw the ball down the field and create some big play opportunities if you hope to beat the Chiefs.
And one big play candidate is, of course, Alvin Kamara, one of the top playmakers in all of football. He's kind of the guy that makes this offense go for the Saints, particularly with Drew Brees in there, because that dynamic screen game they have. This guy leads the Saints in rushing and receiving yards. Pretty incredible stuff. More than 1,400 yards from scrimmage on the year. He's fast, he's elusive, he can do it all.
He takes a lot of attention from the defense, but he's been struggling last 6 games, hasn't got over 100 yards from scrimmage, and people kind of compare that, or they try to relate that to the Taysom Hill factor. Without having Drew Brees in his arm to threaten the defense down the field, defenses have been able to pack the box, keep Alvin Kamara under wraps, and each team they've been playing has been doing that. They've been putting a ninth man, another defensive guy in the box to plug up all those holes, and Alvin has kind of struggled. Now, we don't want him to get back on track against us, but hopefully we'll be able to have a formula to take away the pass and the run and keep that Saints offense kind of what they're doing is sputtering over the last few weeks.
So the Chiefs faced Christian McCaffrey and the Carolina Panthers earlier this season. He's a kind of comparable player to Alvin Kamara, can kind of do it all. Kamara will get his touches, we know that. Just a matter of containing him. And you're right, he's been contained for the most part over the last month and a half or so. So hoping to keep those trends going against Alvin Kamara. Now, speaking of playmakers, one guy that I mentioned earlier that Brees won't have is Michael Thomas, one of the best receivers in all of football. He's missed a bunch of time this season due to injury, and he will not play here today or any other game in the regular season. The guy's a beast. I mean, led the NFL in receiving yards and receptions last season, total vacuum. And even when he's played this season, he's been very good, averaging 11 yards per catch. Now, they have plenty of other weapons to help try and fill that void. Jared Cook at tight end, pretty good player, having a nice year, 6 touchdowns for him. Then also Emmanuel Sanders. Chiefs fans will remember him from his Broncos days. Also saw him in the Super Bowl last year as a member of the San Francisco 49ers. He has 500 receiving yards this year. Then, of course, Taysom Hill. If he's not playing quarterback, he does just about everything else. Tight end, wide receiver, wildcat, he'll do everything. So lots of options for Drew Brees if Brees is the starter throughout the game. But still, losing Michael Thomas is a big, big deal. So, Shawn, my question for you is, how do you expect the Chiefs to defend the Saints here today? And do you expect the Saints offensively to be any different without Michael Thomas out there in terms of their execution?
I do. I think they'll struggle on third downs. I think they'll struggle to get in front of the chains. We talk about being in front of the chains. First and second down, creating a manageable third down. I think our defense is going to win the line of scrimmage and going to find a way to generate and produce a lot of pressure, quarterback hurries and knockdowns on Drew Brees early and often. Get him uncomfortable. Don't let him get his feet set, because he hasn't been behind the center in a few weeks now. So he's got to kind of learn how to get back on that horse. We want to make it as traumatic as possible. Bring as much pressure, overload, some zone blitz, create some confusion for Drew Brees, which is kind of hard to do because he is a savvy veteran. He's seen it all, but he's always struggled against pressure. And now that he's trying to come back off an injury, I don't think or what I've read, he wasn't able to get that final MRI to make sure that those ribs are 100% healthy. He's just kind of going by how he feels. So we want to make sure that we make it very rough, very tough, rough him up if we have to early and often to make sure he doesn't get that comfort level that we know if he gets things going and motivated. Drew Brees, he's one of the best slingers back there. He can hit all 8 zones of the defense, deep and middle, left, right, center. He has amazing vision as a quarterback, and he can read defenses. So we don't want to let him get in a comfort zone. We want to keep the pressure and keep him off balance.
Perhaps some takeaways for this Chiefs defense, that'd be nice. Maybe Tyrann Mathieu can get his hands on the football once again. He has an interception in 3 straight games. And, of course, going back to New Orleans, he's like a living legend down in New Orleans. So we'll love to see the Honey Badger get a few interceptions down there in the Superdome. So, Shawn, we talked about the Saints offense. The Chiefs have a pretty good one, too, though. Number 2 scoring offense in the NFL, led, of course, by Patrick Mahomes. And you and I talk about Patrick Mahomes every single week on this show. But for a national perspective, I caught up with Dan Orlovsky of ESPN earlier this week. All right, I'm joined now by Dan Orlovsky of ESPN. He's checking in with us during his commute to NFL Live. And Dan, I want to ask you about Patrick Mahomes. Really interesting player here because he's only been in the league 4 years, 3 years as a starter, but it feels like he's a grizzled veteran at this point. He's set so many records. He's still a young player, though. How have you seen Patrick grow this season?
I think the maturity of understanding how certain games or certain defenses are not going to, or they're going to try to minimize allowing you to do what you want to do. And, Patrick is such this big-time player. Obviously, the explosive arm and the splash plays, you can convince yourself, I would imagine, that those plays will always be there. I can always make those plays because I'm good enough and the guys around me are as well. And sometimes defenses are like, you know what? We're not going to give that to you. We'll give you other stuff, but we're not going to give you what you want to do most and what you do best. And just his discipline has been really impressive to watch. The discipline of, all right, I got to play a little boring this game. If we asked anybody in the world that has ever watched a football game to use a word to describe Patrick Mahomes' game, it ain't going to be boring, And so for him to have that discipline in moments or in games to go, you know what, I got to play ball out of my hands. Here's this 5-yard completion that any quarterback in the NFL can make, but that's the right play because it's the only option. I think that's been the most impressive thing. I can talk about Patrick forever of how much I love his game and the stuff that he does that just blows my mind. But I really love the growth of the quarterback, when it comes to decision making and week by week by week. Tom Brady's the greatest ever because he morphed week by week of what was needed for that opponent. And I think Patrick is kind of trending into that world.
Now facing one of the best defenses in football this week, number 4 scoring defense in the NFL, and the New Orleans Saints. What are you expecting from Patrick against the Saints defense on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a good challenge because they force you to, over the course of 4 quarters, to make tight throws. Their man coverage has been very good. They got 2 corners that seem to be when all right, it's a big game and I got a big time opponent. Those 2 corners play really well in their man coverage. And then when they play their cover 4 or their middle field open zone defense, it doesn't feel like zone to the quarterback. It's a very much so a match zone where you're gonna have small windows and tight windows, and so they're gonna have to get guys running away from defenders, and he's gonna have to be really accurate with the football. Saints defensive line is very good, so they got a lot of the pieces that you cross your fingers, hope and want to have against the Chiefs. And Patrick, I don't think it's enough. I don't think anybody has enough. But Patrick will have to be really good with his ball placement.
We'll see how it plays out on Sunday. Dan, awesome stuff, man. Really appreciate your time.
You got it, bud. Thank you.
All right, great stuff there from Dan. He's a talented guy. He's driving to NFL Live, and he's able to talk pretty good analysis about Patrick Mahomes in this matchup. So really appreciate his time. Busy individual, made some time for us during his commute to ESPN. And Shawn, I want to keep this conversation going about this Saints defense with you.
Okay.
So this is a very good group, as I talked about earlier. Very good against the run, 3.71 yards per attempt, second best in the NFL behind only Tampa Bay. Number 4 scoring defense in the NFL this season. Number 2 in terms of yards allowed. So last week against Miami, we were saying it's kind of like a bend but don't break defense. Well, this defense really doesn't bend. They're very, very good in terms of not really allowing yards. They can get pressure with guys like Trey Hendrickson, 10.5 sacks for him, really coming out of nowhere. Great season for Trey Hendrickson. And they also cover with guys like Marshawn Lattimore, Marcus Williams, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. List goes on. What do you make of this group?
Man, I'll be honest, I watched the film, and I think the numbers are a little bit inflated because of their opponents. I saw that the Saints, they have defeated only one team that has a winning record, and that was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers twice. That is the team that they beat with a winning record. Everybody else has been a subpar team, and it's easy to build up these lofty goals and stats about a dominant defense when you're not really playing against any prime or elite offensive talent on the other side of the ball. So I believe this defense is a little bit more lofty, a little bit more sugar-coated. It might be a little bit more fluff than you do than you find on most teams this late in the season. So I think this is when you're going to see, is their defense really one of the elite, one of the top 5 defense, or was it just a equation built because of the opponent's lack of ability? Because you'll see no lack of ability against our Kansas City Chiefs offense.
I'm glad you said that because I have a question kind of about that.
Okay.
One of my favorite stats about this matchup, the Saints have allowed the second fewest plays of 10 or more yards in the NFL this season. Second fewest plays of 10 or more yards, so not allowing really big plays at all. The Chiefs, meanwhile, pretty good at those kind of plays. They have the most plays of 10 or more yards in the NFL this season, 222 of them actually, and 17 more than second place. So something has to give in this matchup.
What's going to give is going to be that Saints defense. Like I said, man, when you don't go against the best and you have to wake up, you can't practice against cheetah speed. You don't know what it's like to line up against him man on man and see if you can stay with him. And I think Janoris Jenkins is going to try to take that toll. And as a safety coming down and think that you know how to view or watch Kelce in film study and then think you're going to take away Zeus, well, he runs such unique routes. I think Malcolm Jenkins, even though he's a aged veteran, he hasn't seen the kind of routes Kelce run. And then their primetime corner, their lockdown corner, Marshawn Lattimore, he's gone against some physical guys like Evans in the past. But Sammy Watkins is one of the most physical second receivers in football, and we saw last week when he gets the ball in his hand, he'll leap, hurdle, he'll do whatever he has to do to continue to get positive yardage. So our guys are hitting on all cylinders, and that's not even mentioning Robinson, Hardman, our running backs, Le'Veon and Clyde out the backfield. So we can still deal out more aces when you think that our hand is full.
Yeah, it's certainly difficult when you're going against this team with so many playmakers, and that's why when you're looking at defensive stats, kind of like you said, you kind of have to throw a lot of that stuff out because the Saints haven't faced Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce yet this season, and those guys have proven both having incredible years. They're just about impossible to cover both of them in the same game. So I'm curious, Shawn, if you were Eric Bieniemy in this matchup, how would you attack the Saints defense offensively?
I would do the same thing that we did against the Dolphins. I think that we attack vertically. We continue to be aggressive. And the one thing we know is our guy who's throwing the ball, Pat, he is not going to ever blink. He has such a short memory, the grease board, the interception, a turnover, a big sack. He's always thinking about how to create and develop and grow as an offense. And as we continue to turn the page, I think that one thing we haven't seen a lot this whole year is we haven't seen a screen game really be used. So we could see the screen game be used against this team, but I do think that our vertical speed is something that the Saints defensive backfield, they just can't run vertical with us. And so they're going to try to get to Pat, try to get to the quarterback any way they can, whether they need the blitz, bring pressure, and they're going to be susceptible to the vertical game.
Saw on that graphic there, the Chiefs are averaging 429 yards per game. Absolutely crazy numbers from this offense. And as I mentioned, two big parts of that, Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. Each of those guys could break a few records here today. So we're keeping track of these. First for Travis Kelce, he is 127 yards shy of the all-time single-season receiving yards record by a tight end. He has at least 100 yards in 5 of his last 6 games. What a remarkable season from Travis Kelce.
Man, Travis Kelce, I say, a.k.a. Enfuego, on fire. He's scorching hot right now. I think over the last 6 games, he has 749 yards, which is a NFL in the history of NFL, not just this season, all time for a 6-game span. No other tight end has ever had that many combined yards, and he's doing it on an amazing. And everybody knows we're going to him. It's not like he's a hidden gem or nothing. You can't stop him because he runs these such unique routes that aren't on any passing tree. You watch in film, he's never running the same route the same way twice. And so him and Pat got definitely a connection, a mental link going on, and he knows how to find 8-7 when he needs a first down or a touchdown.
And the thing with him, it's not like just a couple big plays in the game and he has 100 yards. I mean, I believe, this is off the top of my head, I believe he has 8 catches in like 6 straight games. It's absolutely phenomenal what he's doing. He's closing in on the all-time single-season reception record by a tight end too. Probably won't get that today. He needs like 26 catches, but he might have that at the end of the year. So just remarkable stuff from Travis Kelce. Without a doubt, in my opinion, the best tight end, really, I think, of his generation. I really do say that. But I know there's guys like Rob Gronkowski, George Kittle out there in San Francisco, but what Travis Kelce is doing is truly special, and we're lucky to be seeing it here in Kansas City. Now, Tyreek Hill also can break a record today. He has 14 receiving touchdowns this year, needs just 2 more to break Dwayne Bowe's single-season franchise record for receiving touchdowns in a single season. What a year for Tyreek Hill, too.
And we're not even mentioning the ones he runs as a running back on those sweeps and stuff. And so he's just such a multifaceted, such an explosive player. I think one thing everybody saw is when he ran that sweep, there was 3 or 4 Dolphins in position to make a play. He used a dead ladder. He used a little Bambi step, just a little shiver move, and froze their feet. And then he was able to accelerate around the corner with about 5 yards to go ahead and score that touchdown. I'm telling you, in years of watching football, I don't think I've seen anybody who can go 0 to 40 as fast as Tyreek Hill. And he's just doing it over and over again. It's amazing. The defense, like I said, they know it's coming, but you just can't generate that type of speed in practice to have somebody to give you what it's going to be like. And by the time the game starts, the lights are on, and you actually see what it's like to run against Cheetah and try to cover him, it's often too late.
Having two guys like this in the same team is just remarkable. It really is. We're lucky to have both of them on the same offense, and I'm glad I'm not a defensive coordinator trying to figure out how to stop both of them in one game. And what's amazing about these two guys is we normally have this kind of record conversation in like week 17, right?
Yes.
Not here in week 15. We're talking about them breaking all-time records. So I would love to see these guys break these records here today, but certainly more time to do it in the season if they can do it then. All right, Shawn, so that's about it for us. Any final thoughts on Chiefs and Saints here today?
Man, the most important thing is about these records is that the first person that's going to congratulate Tyreek Hill or Kelce when they have that is the other one. It's not a team where you find guys that are so caught up in their own success that they are, give me the ball, I need the ball. They know this offense is everybody runs full speed, and Pat has the ability to keep everybody alive in the routes. And these guys have committed to a program. The success of the team is more important than any individual success. And I think that's when we talk about the product being of less value than the process. The process is always of greater value than any one person's production. And I think the Chiefs have done that in numerous fashions, and that's why they're one of the premier organizations to play for, and that's why we're probably going to be the favorites going into the Super Bowl.
Love the sound of that. And you're right. You ever ask Travis Kelce about his stats? He does not care at all. All he cares about is winning football games. So let's win another one here today. For Shawn Barber, I'm Matt McMullen. Enjoy the game, everybody. Let's get a win.